Welcome. Welcome to my home, to the Dominguez Adobe. My name is Maria Ingracia Cota de Dominguez. I have come from the past to teach you and to give you a tour of my home. This adobe was built in 1826 during the Mexican Rancho period when my husband was the alcalde, the mayor of Los Angeles. And our main industry here was cattle. We raised a lot of cows for their leather. Let me show you a piece of leather. For their hides, for their tallow, which we made soap and candles out of. And to identify our cattle, we used a cattle brand. This is the Dominguez cattle brand that looks like a lemon, and it's two cattle yoke to indicate, sort of like a house address or a tattoo to let us know who owns the cattle. Today we're in my kitchen. In those days, we would cook food outside and then bring the food in. We fed many vaqueros. That's the Spanish word for cowboys. We would make bread. Here in the corner, we have a bread boat, so we would make pan. Here we have some indications, examples of the foodstuffs that we grew. We had a garden, we had an orchard, but special things had to come from the Pueblo of Los Angeles, especially luxury goods like the china and the china cupboard you see in the corner. And in the next room, I'll be showing you china that actually came from France. We are now in the dining room. The dining room is very special because this is where the family would eat. And here we have beautiful china. A ship would have brought all these beautiful luxury items to the port of San Pedro, where we would have bought things like this. Oh, two portraits of myself and my husband, Manuel Dominguez, who later was the mayor, the alcalde of the Pueblo of Los Angeles. Very surprised to see them here, because in my day they would not have been there. But we have beautiful things in this room, including our beautiful chandeliers, which in our day would have been candles. So come, sit down, let's take a drink and let's have something good to eat. Right now we're in the map room, which tells us the history of the land, who owned it and how it was obtained, and also who fought for it. This property actually belonged to the Native Americans, the Gabrielino Indians, and they called this place Sangwa, the place of the rushes. Rushes are tall grasses that grow in the LA River. And then in 1769, our great uncle, Juan Jose Dominguez, came up with the Spanish army. And this mannequin here represents him. Also, we have a replica outfit of how our dear uncle, Juan Jose Dominguez, would have dressed coming up from the Nueva España to the northern part of California. The King of Spain, King Carlos III, gave Uncle Juan Jose 75,000 acres of land. This is called a land grant. And the land grant was all the land south of Rosecrans and west of the LA River. And we call that today Rancho San Pedro. And in those days, the land was measured with ropes, with riatas. It would take two vaqueros. One vaquero would hold the end of the rope, and another vaquero on horseback would ride up, say 100 feet, and then mark where the rope ended. And that's how the Spanish measured their land, with ropes. Our uncle, gave the land when he passed away to my father-in-law, and my husband inherited the land. This mannequin here represents my husband, Manuel Dominguez. He was not a soldier like his uncle or his father, but today we would consider him a politician, a lawyer, a land surveyor. He was even the alcalde, the mayor of Los Angeles in 1832 and during the Mexican time period. In 1846, our rancho was the location of one of the 5 battles for California during the Mexican-American War. The battle is called Battle of Dominguez Hill, otherwise known as Battle of the Old Woman's Gun, where 4 sailors and Marine dragoons were killed here in a 2-day skirmish where the American attempt to capture the Pueblo of Los Angeles. In 1849, Manuel Dominguez was invited to help write the first California state constitution. 44 delegates met at Colton Hall in Monterey, and Manuel was one of them. And the state of California, in order to join the Union, had to submit a state constitution. So Manuel was part of that writing. Here we have a sample of their signatures of the men that actually wrote the Constitution. Here we have Manuel's signature, Manuel Dominguez, with all the loopy-loops, and he crosses his initial with a symbol of his cattle brand. Here we have a map. So what happened to the rancho after the parents died? 6 daughters inherited the land. And this map shows how each daughter was given land amongst different parts up Alameda Corridor or along the ocean. And these lands became, or what was once the Rancho San Pedro, became cities. Carson, Wilmington, Torrance. Perhaps these are cities where you live. We are now in the ladies' parlor. Here we have a portrait of Manuel Dominguez. Of his 10 original children, he had 6 surviving daughters. These are the daughters that inherited the land, the rancho that later would become the local cities here. The daughters had a traveling seamstress to make their clothes. In the old days, there were no stores and women had to make their own clothes. Manuel eventually had to turn this rancho into a sheep ranch. With sheep, we have wool, and with wool, we make fabric. And this is a spinning wheel to illustrate that. The daughters would have lived in a beautiful parlor like this, where they would have had tea, they would have listened to music, they would have gotten the latest magazines, Harper's Bazaar from New York, to illustrate beautiful patterns for the latest fashions in New York and in Europe. Today, we also have portraits of 2 of the sisters, one of Maria de los Reyes and one of Susana del Amo, that are in this room. Below the portrait of Maria de los Reyes, she was the youngest daughter of the family, is a Victor phonograph. This instrument plays music from old LPs. And apparently the sisters like to hear operas and old Spanish ballads. And this is how the ladies would entertain themselves when they were here in the ladies' parlor in the evening. Welcome to the sala, or the living room. The living room has beautiful artifacts that I'd like to share with you. First, let's talk about music and dance. In the old days, when there was no TV or videos, people would dance and play music in the evenings. Here we have a grand piano. These type of pianos, where their legs unscrew, would have been brought by a ship all the way from back east. And in fact, this one is the Stubert Steinway from New York. And this grand piano was the first piano to arrive in the state of California. This was bought in San Francisco in the year 1854. Here's an 1854 portrait of Manuel Dominguez. He had taken a herd of cattle up to San Jose to sell the meat of the cows to the 49ers. The 49ers are the men that came for the gold rush, looking for gold. And this is how Manuel was able to prosper and buy beautiful luxury items for his home, like the zither, the music box, the grand piano, his beautiful watch that we have on display, and red couches that you see in all the adobes. In the sala, we have 2 photographs of the daughters. This is a photograph of Dolores Dominguez Watson. Dolores is the last daughter to live in the house, and this photograph was taken about 1920s at her sister's house. And you can see the chair that she's sitting on is also the chair we have in the sala. In the sala, we have a portrait here of Susana del Amo. Susana was one of the daughters and inherited the adobe when her parents died, and she later got married. And this portrait, taken about 1920s, is taken in her home. And here we have her sitting on top of a leopard skin, and also the chair in the photograph is here in our salon. We are now in the bedroom. In this room, we have some original artifacts. First, we have Manuel's brass bed. We also have Manuel's traveling trunk. This house is built on a hill. So during the day, I would have sent my servants or my children, who all had chores, to go fetch water to cook and clean. In the corner, we have a basin with a jug, and this is how people would wash every day. We also have a bed warmer, which would have been filled with charcoal, and at night, we would toss the blankets down and then put the bed warmer across the bed to warm it up. In the corner of the bedroom, we also have an armoire. An armoire is a wooden closet. Because there were no carpenters here in early California, beautiful furniture like this came by ships from back east. Hanging on the armoire, we also have a nightgown that actually belonged to me, Maria and Gracia Cota. And you can see the beautiful lace and how it was handmade. This is the type of nightgown I would have worn at night. Now we're in the chapel. The Dominguez family was a very Catholic family. Every Sunday we went to church, but church was 18 miles away, down Alameda at the Placita Olvera. And the last 2 years of my husband's life, he was very ill. So the church came to us. Father Mora helped create this chapel so that my husband could hear Mass on Sundays. By that time, we were a sheep ranch. So the daughters created this double door here in the chapel so the workers, the shepherds, could hear Mass on Sunday and hear the beautiful organ as it was played. We also have some beautiful artifacts in this room, one being this painting. This painting of St. Peter was a gift from the Vatican. And the reason it was given to us is San Pedro Harbor, San Pedro Rancho, in English means St. Peter. The 6 daughters of the Dominguez family inherited the rancho, and 3 of them got married. Today we're looking at the furniture of the married daughters' homes. This daughter is Susana Del Amo. We might be familiar with Del Amo Mall or Del Amo Boulevard. This daughter had a beautiful home in Westchester Place, LA, and this beautiful Chinese hand-carved furniture is from her home. The furniture in this room represents my daughter, Dolores Watson. Dolores is the first of the daughters to get married, and she's the last daughter to live in the house. Today we can see some beautiful objects. First, my daughter loved to embroider. We have a lot of her embroidery, a sample of her embroidery. We also have these German bisque dolls. She had 4 sons, but she had a lot of granddaughters. And if you had a lot of money, you would have bought beautiful dolls from Europe for your children. This china here is actually from San Francisco, where when they first got married, went to live. This is an original artifact of a prayer stand that belonged to my daughter. Over here, we have a black dress to represent her widowhood. When you're a widow and your husband dies, you wear black. Also, you wear black as an elegant color. And over here, we have our beautiful slate bed and beautiful other artifacts that belong to Dolores's bedroom. We are now in Victoria's room. The furniture in this represents my youngest daughter, Victoria, who married a man named George Carson. You might be familiar with the city of Carson. This is the house that Carson built for my daughter. It was right here on Alameda Street, and this living room furniture was original and actually in this house. This room illustrates a lot of beautiful inventions of the 20th century. In this corner, we have a camera. I know that they went to the St. Louis World Fair and took pictures. We have an early typewriter where you can type your letters. Behind me, we have a player piano. Over here, we have a 1909 Edison wax player. It could play both music and record music. Above me, we have chandeliers. They're both gas and electric. And this fireplace here, we have Shakespeare scenes on the tile. We also have a metal fireplace screen because in those days, women's makeup was very thick, and if you sat too close to the fireplace, it actually would melt. This is the air meet room. In 1910, the Dominguez Rancho became the host and the place where the third air show in the world was held. The first one was held in Paris, France, the second one in New Jersey, and the third air show in the world was held right here behind the Adobe home. This panorama view gives you an idea of what was here. There's a view of the house, the original adobe of the Carson house, and across the railroad tracks, which was the red car line at that time, is the land where the air show was held. And this is today the site of Cal State Dominguez Hills University. And this is where the world came to see flying airplanes, flying dirigibles, and balloons.